Welcome everybody to the 11th stream of DBB Live. Hope you've all had a great day so far, ready to talk some Detroit basketball. I'm Wes Davenport from Motor City Hoops, Detroit Bad Boys, and I am joined, as always, by the Aussie himself, Jack Kelly from Detroit Bad Boys. Jack, what's going on?
Technical difficulties to start. He looks froze to me, Wes.
He looks frozen. Well, we're going to just move on to Bryce then. Bryce, we're pumped to have you on. Obviously, draft expert, Motor City Hoops, Detroit Bad Boys. How are you feeling this evening?
I'm good. Jack's screen moved just a little bit, so we got a little bit of a sly smile coming from him right now. But hey, this is technology these days, man. Like, this is what happens. This is what comes with these lives. I'm sure he'll be able to get himself back in here soon. I'm good, man. I'm excited to talk NBA draft, whatever else comes up in the comments. I know we're going to talk some Amen Thompson. I want to talk about Jack's lefty shooting stroke, though, that he was showing off on Twitter today, man. That was looking good. I feel like when he gets back in here, we got a little three-man team here that can play a little bit. I'd put up our squad against a lot of people in the Pistons Twitterverse. So I probably should just coach at my age, but back in the day. So
no, we need that jumper, Bryce. I'll just
that's all I do though.
Like time,
that's all I do. Don't expect any defense. No more rebounding. None of that's coming.
Oh man, listen for me.
Hey Jack,
I got none of the defense either. Jack, you're back in. What's going on?
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. We were literally talking for like 10 minutes in the back, no issues. And then as soon as we start the show, my internet cuts out. So apologies to everyone watching, but I'm not sure what you heard, but I'm good and I'm excited to have Bryce on the show today.
We were talking about how good our 3-on-3 team would be.
I'm worried about the ball handling, Bryce. That's what I was about to say. Because I ain't a ball handler.
Jack better be able to do that. Jack, can you play PG and defend?
Yeah, I don't really pass, though. That's the only thing.
Oh, never mind. I'm out. I need a new squad.
Hey, if we were in Detroit, I would have 100% signed up for that 3-on-3 tournament.
For sure. We would have been bad, though, if no one's passing. Anyway, we got to get off this. Bryce, you were teasing it earlier. We're talking about the Thompson twins. And just to start us off, I want to talk about that and then just some general reactions to Monty Williams' press conference. But I know, Jack, you and I on the show, we've previously been a little bit down on the Thompson twins, and specifically in Detroit. And I don't really want to be that anti-Thompson twin show. So I was really hoping that you could give us some really good reasons to be in on them, because I think there are plenty of them. I was just hoping that, our resident draft expert here could give us the pitch,
Yeah, so I was thinking about this all day, and instead of me rambling for 15 minutes and maybe saying things you guys already believe or anything like that, I kind of wanted to just be like, okay, what are your concerns? So, whoever, like, what are your concerns about Amin as a player or his fit? And we can just start there and then go from that. And like I say, instead of me rambling for 5 minutes and, maybe touching on stuff that doesn't need to be touched on.
I think for me, the concern is like, obviously the jump shot, but more so just how much do you believe in Amin as an off-ball player on offense? Like, he cut at the OTE. I think he could definitely be a weapon as an off-ball player, like cutting and that sort of thing. But I guess how much do you believe in like his willingness to accept a role like that, and how much would the lack of I can't imagine NBA defenses are going to pay much attention to him, that like he could clog up the paint for Cade and Ivy.
Yeah. So I'm not going to name drop, but I've talked to an NBA draft media person that's pretty legit, and he has specifically told me that he thinks Amin is the type of kid that would accept that role if you ask him to do that, especially early in his career. That's the type of kid we're talking about. That's the type of kid that, an NBA team is getting. Now, does that help him reach his ceiling? Like, that's a whole nother conversation. Would he be happy with that long-term? Even this person said that, like, maybe he wouldn't accept it long-term, but right away he would. My vision for how this would work offensively is the sacrifices would come from Jaylen and Ivy almost having to exclusively play off the ball, which I don't have a lot of issues with. I know a lot of Pistons fans would. Amin, when they're on the floor together, is this like slasher, creative pick and roll, short roller, lob threat. Maybe you play him in the dunker spot. Like, you have to play a 4-man that is a shooter, i.e. Boyan, but you can almost play him as like kind of a quote unquote big in that way, like homie, but supersized and can pass and those type of things. And then Jack, he's your backup point guard. I think if they draft him in Thompson, Killian Hayes might as well get traded because I see zero, any on-ball reps for Killian Hayes. That's not even Killian Hayes slight. Like that's just, you have Cade and Amin that are going to take 95% of it, and anything left over better go to Jaylen and Ivy. So you can stagger minutes, let him be the second unit point guard. That would be my vision for how it could work offensively.
Yeah, for sure. I've said from the start here, like I'm a believer in Amin Thompson being like potentially being like a top 3 player in this draft when we look back in like 5 or so years. I just have concerns with him in Detroit. That's the only thing I've sort of that's the past few weeks discussing this, where I've come around to the fact where there's some other players I prefer, but it's definitely interesting. I'll turn it over to Wes.
Yeah. So, all right, my 2 bigger concerns then would be, and I don't know how much you can really answer on the first one, just how projectable everything that he's done at OTE would be into the NBA, at least in year 1. Obviously, long term, you want to bank on the athleticism, but right away. And then on top of that, Omari's pointed out on the podcast too, how he's an unwilling 3-point shooter. And I think it goes a little further than that. Sometimes he defers as a passer almost to a fault, in my opinion. So those would be my 2 concerns. I don't know where you bounce off on that.
Yeah, I've seen that being the biggest question with him. I know that's a reason a lot of people project Asar to be a much better shooter, which is probably a fair projection. I still think there's a lot of questions about Asar's jump shot, but that Amin wasn't a willing shooter, but it's like, when you can get to the lane the way Amin was in OTE, why should he shoot? And so, obviously it's a swing skill to help him hit his ceiling anyway. That's the question, right, Wes, Jack? We've talked about this. It's really, really hard to evaluate these kids with the competition they are playing against. It's not just that they were playing against high school kids. It's that they were 20-year-olds playing against high school kids in a really weird league with some wonky rules that a lot of games weren't competitive. And I will say this, I went back and watched the international film. I watched 6 full games. Those games were a little different too. They were playing them a quarter at a time, resetting the score. You could tell the substitution patterns were different. Like it was better, but I still came away with some of the same concerns. So, but in general, right? Like you have a little bit of projection with all of these guys. We talked about that today, Wes. Like there's projection with Cam Whitmore. It's just, you wish you would have seen him some more games against that level of competition.
I guess, Bryce, so just being completely honest here, like we spoke probably a few weeks ago and you sort of outlined your concerns with both the Thompsons twins' defensive habits. So that really opened my eyes to a few things. And I guess how much of those defensive awareness struggles, I'll call them, do you think is a product of just being in the OTE and the competition level there and sort of just being a more superior talent to anyone else there versus like these are real issues that might not be able to change, like that might take a long time in the NBA to change?
So I think I think it's more of it's going to take time. Then I'm worried that it never happens, if that makes sense, because that was one of my biggest takeaway from the international game was, okay, these are going to be more competitive games, blah, blah, blah. I still saw some of the same stuff. Like it's just, I think they're just bad habits. They get away with being elite athletes by helping when they're not supposed to help. So they find themselves all the way across the lane with their man over on the opposite wing, and then they can still run over there and contest in the OTE. Well, in the NBA, that's whoever whipping a pass and a elite shooter knocking it down. And those mistakes they're not going to get away with them. So I believe in the defensive upside that a lot of other people do. I just don't think it's going to be year 1. I think there's going to be some real struggles, especially off the ball, but even on the ball. Like, have we seen them defend the type of guys that they're going to have to? And while I believe in it, I just don't think it's going to be right away.
For sure. And that's one of the things I noticed, like just watching some of men film, like there was times he got blown by just by not being in stance. And, but because of just his ridiculous athleticism. I mean, I think both twins measured with a 7-foot wingspan, which I think was a surprise to people. Like just that length, they were able to recover and block the shot. Like the amount of jump shots Amen Thompson blocked. Like I think he had 11 or 12 on the season, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I swear half of them were just blocking pull-up jumpers, which is just overwhelming the competition. So that stuff's awesome. And I can see it maybe translating, but it's also a concern at the same time. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I watching that film, I thought they were equal defenders watching OTE this year. I thought the Asar hype was a little too much. Watching the international games, I did see where people feel like Asar's a little bit further along as a defender than Amin. And so Amin will have a bad closeout here and there and those type of things. So I just think there's going to be more growing pains than maybe what some people, and maybe I'm misconstruing what people think about them as defenders day one. I just definitely think it's going to take a little time.
I got one more, and then we'll hit on Monty Williams, the presser, real quick. So just for fun, the absolute best case outcome, the ceiling for Amen Thompson, and then the worst case, the floor. Where are you going on both of those?
I mean, I think he's a NBA All-Star type talent. I mean, like that's if I wanted to take him, it's because I think you need that type of ceiling. If I was going to pick him as a member of the Pistons or member of the front office, it would be because I'm like, we still need some upside here, like star level upside. I think Amin could be incredible, multi-time All-Star type of player. I think the floor is like, I know my tweet today, I used the wrong context. Like most of these guys probably aren't out of the league in 5 years, but like, it's like Hami, right? Where it's like super athlete, but he can't shoot. And now you have a role, but does it translate to the playoffs and how good is it? And you kind of just bounce around the league, and he's a better athlete than Hami, as good an athlete as Hami is. But I mean, I think there's a real chance, you know what it is. We've talked about this, Wes. Putting percentages to those things is where it gets interesting, right? Like, is there a 10% chance he hits that ceiling and a 30% chance he hits the floor, or is it vice versa? And I don't know that I really have an answer to that, but I mean, I think he has a huge ceiling. I think he'd be really good. And Jack, I think this is where you stand on it. And I heard Vicini talking about this today. Can he hit that ceiling in Detroit, right? Like, did they have the roster and all of that where he could actually hit that? And I think that's a fair question.
Yeah, for sure. I think like this is the thing, like just my stance on the men is I still think he can be an awesome player in this league. But just the context of Detroit's roster, I'm just not sure he hits that. And how much, I also don't think he's a top 2 talent where you just take him no matter what. Like I think that's a fair thing to say. So, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, especially we saw that Asar Thompson turning down a workout in in Indiana, my mistake.
Indiana.
So, yeah, who knows what happens. So I think I guess we just wanted to see, Wes, what were your thoughts or takeaways from the Monty Williams press conference a couple of days ago?
Yeah, no, I really only had 2. One, I liked that all the guys except Bojan and what was Kojo there? I think I had mixed reports on Kojo, but most of the guys were there. Almost everyone was there, so that was really nice to see. Right? I mean, it means that they're all in Detroit, all working out, and at least still around the facilities, which is cool for June. And then on top of that, I did like that he mentioned the money. I mean, when you get a record-setting contract and you get asked, why are you here? I mean, it'd be kind of disingenuous to sit up there and not talk about it, right? Like he set the record for most money paid to a coach in the NBA. So I was happy that he mentioned it, and nothing really more to it. But I thought it was a good press conference. I don't know. What did you think, Bryce?
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest takeaway was what they did for him and his family and his wife. And, with the healthcare. And I think another takeaway was, I think we continue to get a little bit more details in why this, played out the way it did, why it took a little bit longer. And it makes sense why maybe we weren't hearing those things in the moment, like maybe he didn't want people to know. So I feel like we continue to get more perspective on why the process played out the way it did. And I mean, I know people have their thoughts about Tom Gores. I'll continue to say, just at face value in terms of what I would want from an owner, I feel like he stays out of the way. And then whenever it's time to pony up the money, he ponies up the money. Now, I know there's other context around that we're not going to get into. And I feel like in this situation, he did what I would want my owner to do. He was patient. He went after the biggest name, the best name on the market, and he did whatever it took financially, even like personally, you know what I mean? Like developed a relationship and met a person's needs as an individual, not just as a basketball coach. Like that's what I'd want to see. Sorry, like my 4-year-old's running around in here. He's hiding in the closet. My wife's trying to catch him. I'm going to mute and let you guys talk for a little bit.
No, I think you guys covered it really well. The stuff with Montys Wife and the way the franchise is going to assist with her recovery process and that sort of thing. Like that was just really cool. I think Amari reported that or wrote an article post the press conference, and but yeah, it was just, that was really cool. I think for me, you guys covered it pretty well. I really enjoyed how he sort of emphasized just the players' communication, and their sort of, like he said something along the lines of, they text me back immediately, and that's not something you see regularly. I don't know if that was a shot.
Looks them in the eye when they're
no,
there.
that
was a good one.
That's a real thing. Like I know we think kids are on their phones all the time. I struggle all the time to get my high school kids to text me back and stuff like that. So like that really like registered with me when he said that.
Yeah, same. And like, and Wes, you just pointed out another one. Like he said, they always look me in the eye, and sometimes that stuff can sort of go unnoticed. But for me, that really stuck out because this whole process, like the way this team's drafted, they've prioritized character. And I mean, I think Monty Williams has seen that immediately. Another cool thing I heard in another, I don't know if it was at the press conference or an interview with one of the Detroit media outlets, but he said Troy basically lined up all the guys practicing, sent them like a photo of all of them being like, and Troy was like, get down here to Detroit now. And like, it was just really cool. Like some of those insights like that you normally don't get to hear. So it just seems like the whole team's bought in on Monty Williams. I mean, Cade and Jayden both said in interviews with Bally after, like, it was the best case scenario. So it's just cool to see that synergy from like front office through players. I mean, you wouldn't expect anything negative, but just to get all that insight in one day, I thought it was really cool, and I thought they did a great job with.
Can I ask a question? How much? I know we can't get the answer to this. I know Tom Gores paid a ton for Monty Williams, right? Way more than he would have had to pay for Kevin Ollie, Charles Lee, or Jaron Collins. But how much money do you think he's going to not necessarily make, but like how much more will he sell in tickets, merchandise, excitement? Like how much more excitement is there around the organization because of Monty Williams?
Oh,
like, is there going to be more of a return on investment than what we're thinking? And I'm not even saying just long term. I'm even saying in the short term. You missed on Victor Wembanyama. The fan base is pissed. You had the Rob Murphy situation. Like this thing wasn't like, it was getting close to not going well. I'm not saying that this was all like just for that, because I want to believe that Tom Gores, like in his heart of hearts, was like, but like there's a little bit of that, right? Because now all of a sudden we're talking really good about Gores. We're really excited about this team, even though we have the 5th pick. Like, how many more tickets are going to sell on opening night? Maybe it's not. Maybe it would have sold the same. I wonder. Like, it makes me wonder if this was actually a really good investment, even in the short term.
I'd have to go back and watch it, but didn't Tom Gores mention something about potentially the public perception and like with the original candidate? I'd have to go back and watch that, but I swear I was listening to a podcast and someone
half the fan base would have decombusted if they hired Kevin Ollie.
Yeah.
Like, who is complaining? Who is complaining about Monty Williams? If anybody's saying anything, it's about the money, and we all know the money doesn't matter. It only matters to one person, and that's Tom Gores. Like, good for Monty. And now what I see, like Popovich is talking about 3 years, $15 million. Like, this is good for all coaches in the NBA. Yeah. And so I keep wondering about this. Was there a strategic aspect of, man, I need to make a move because we didn't get the number 1 pick, and some of this other stuff hasn't gone the way we thought. And this will be, and Monty seems to be an incredible man. And then on top of it, he hires Steven Silas, the guy, I forget his Burke from the Pacers, right?
Indiana.
Yeah. I don't know if that's official or not. Jarrett Jack was there. Did you guys see that? Jarrett Jack. Yeah. I know that was a Monty thing, but he had the Restore hoodie on. I don't know. I continue to think about this, and I don't know if you can ever actually quantify it or not, but I thought it was
we have the Pistons economist here in Wes. So.
It would be impossible to quantify, but it is a really interesting thought that even in like the short term, right? Because obviously if you're looking to make the biggest return on the team, win, right? So long run, Monty Williams is probably your best chance to win in 3 years or whatever, right? But even now to shift, kind of the narrative around the team, like you said, I mean, I could definitely see it. It's interesting.
And just to add, the Pistons across all social media platforms have the lowest following in terms of Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Like they have the lowest following of all 30 franchises. Not saying that was factored in. I'm just saying like.
No, are you being serious? Like
I'm
in general or 30th?
Yeah, because we've been so irrelevant throughout the social media rise. Like you think like Instagram and that all started popping off like 2010s. The Pistons have been so irrelevant. I saw a tweet.
No, I just think what life is going to be good for us content creators when they start winning games, man. Like,
how do you think? Yeah, this random Australians. Man, it was pretty easy to crack in.
I was gonna say, have you ever thought about that? Like, what if we tried to crack into the Warriors content creation?
No,
not a chance.
Lakers, Warriors, like Celtics.
We would have got Celtics, Knicks. We would have got lost in the shuffle. We never would have had a chance.
Yeah,
nobody would know who we were.
100%.
But
I'd be drinking a twisted tea, watching Bravo with my wife right now instead of talking Pistons.
Vanderpump Rules, hey.
It's over, man. It's over. They already had all 3 reunions.
Don't start with this. This is bad stuff.
Big Brother starts in August.
Let's go. All right, but I'm pretty sure they have the lowest engagement across all social media platforms or following. So I think this sort of move, and you're right, Bryce, like post-draft, falling to pick 5, I'll be honest, like I wasn't overly worried, but I was sort of thinking, ooh, what's going on here a little bit? Is this still the upward trajectory? Like, so I think that Monty Williams hire is fully Pistons Twitter is so positive at the moment. Well, as positive as it can be, I should say.
I mean, you're always going to have the discourse about around the number 5 pick and Killian and Isaiah and all that. But in general, like it completely shifted everything. I don't know. It's just something I continue to think about.
Awesome point. Any final thoughts before we move on to some questions?
I would
gotta get in it.
I would be interesting, guys. No, just what did you guys think about the assistant coaching stuff? Because like to me, it's like, dang, we were talking about Steven Silas as the head coach, and they bring him in as an assistant coach to help with the offense, the defensive guy. I'm excited. I'm excited about the rest of the staff.
Really
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, the Dan Burke. I don't know if it's 100% official, but Amari documented a piece on it, so I feel like it must be pretty close. Like he was at the Pacers for like 20 years, and Rick Carlisle kept him on. Frank Vogel kept him on.
Like 5 or 6 coaches, right?
Like you see, he's been through like 5 or 6 head coaches, which you see like the Pistons change coaching staff. I don't think any of the coaches have survived. It's not. I think it's common practice to replace the whole staff. The new guy pick. So usually. For Dan Burke to last, and some of those Pacers teams in the 2010s with Roy Hibbert, David West, like they were stout defensively. They were tough, and like so. I mean, because defense for me, if this team's going to take a step next season, it starts on the defensive end. So. Yeah, I'm pretty excited, to be honest.
Yeah, and they lost their guy in Sean Sweeney whenever he went to join Kidd in Dallas. And I think his first year there was pretty good. I think I saw Burke has been in Philly and they've had top 15, I think maybe 2 of the years, top 10 defenses or something like that. I mean, he was doing that with James Harden, on the floor. And so we can say whatever we want about Jaylen Ivy. If Jaylen Ivy isn't at least James Harden on the defensive end, then we got big trouble. Like, you better draft him in because Jaden's not going to be it. And I do not believe that about Jaylen Ivy. I think he's too much of a competitor, but and too athletic. But yeah, I mean, I think sometimes those are the things that can be even more exciting. And I think it just shows kind of like what you're just, guys, how many games have they won in the last 3 years? I know they had to pay a boatload, but they got Monty Williams to come. And then Monty Williams got Steven Silas to come and Dan Burke to come. Like, these aren't just dudes.
And Bryant from Phoenix too.
And Bryant from Phoenix. Like, these aren't dudes who had no other offers, I would imagine. So whether it's just an excitement about the organization or Monty's just that dude, I don't care which it is. It's a good thing. Because if Monty's just that dude, that's going to carry over to players in free agency as well, if he really has that type of kind of pull and reputation.
Absolutely.
Totally. It's exciting. It's very exciting. All right, let's get into some questions here. So first of all, from KDA1024, would love to see the Pistons grab an extra first-round pick. We will have the staff to bring them up to speed at the earliest opportunity and still gain ground from organic growth in the team. Do we think Troy Rivers goes for another first-round pick draft night?
I was told the 10 for Dallas thing is a real thing. I had somebody text me, like I wasn't asking. They randomly text me and said, they sent me the article or the tweet or whatever and said, this is truly in play. Now, does that mean it happens? Who knows? Like, it may be a thing. To me, it's only in play if one of the top 9 falls. I saw something earlier. Somebody just tweeted at me, Kobe Buffkin is getting top 10 talk right now. So if Kobe Buffkin goes in the top 10 or Grady Dick goes in the top 10 and now Hendricks or Black or somebody like that falls to 10. Yes. Like I'm in on that. I'm with you though, Wes. You've talked about this a little bit. I don't know that I want to bring in 3 this year though. Like that's, like if you're going to do that, I may be okay trading 31 for a future second, or maybe you could trade 31 for a top 25 protected for, something like that to push it down the road a little bit. I think I'm okay just bringing in 2 guys.
Yeah. Sorry, excuse me. I think my head's at 2 as well. With that number 10 with Dallas, I mean, that has to be Bojan. I was trying to think of other options on the Pistons roster that would make it worth it for Dallas to move off 10. And they're not going to move Duran or Ivy or Cade, right? So is there even another package? It has to be Bojan.
Yeah, and I think so.
I believe the reported trade was Hardaway Jr. pick 10 for 31 and Bojan. The only thing I'll add is I saw a report from Jake Fisher this morning, my time, that Dallas have been linked to the Hawks trading back for pick 15 and John Collins.
Interesting too. So
there's also that rumor flying around.
I talked to Richard Stamen and we talked into adding either Wiseman or Bagley. I think it was Wiseman, but then you have to add Bertans for them. And he said he would do that. I don't hate it. I don't hate it because I think Tim Hardaway Jr. can at least come in at his age and just knock down some threes, and, the youth movement is a little stronger. I would want them to go after somebody in free agency. The one thing to note about THJ and Bertans, for anybody curious about this trade, THJ does have 2 more years. He's not an expiring. THJ has 2 more years. Bertans has 2 more years, but the second year is only $5 million guaranteed if he doesn't play like 75% of the games this season. So you are committed a little bit more than like Bojan, who I think only has $2 million guaranteed on that $20 million for 2 years from now. So just a couple other things to consider.
For sure. Would you guys do the trade?
I think I
one
would.
that Gavoni mentioned or the one that Bryce just said?
I was alluding to the reported one from Gavoni.
I think that's like an easy yes. I mean, it seems like heck of a value for Boyan. I mean, when I first saw it, my gut was that Dallas would be overpaying. So I almost wrote it off, and then I like double checked the source. Like, oh, all right, it's more legit than I thought. But if you start throwing in more cap, contracts that be coming into Detroit, then it makes me think a little bit more about what you're beginning out of number 10 relative to what you get by keeping Boyan, and as well the veteran presence that you'd be losing. So I think as more salary gets added on, I'd be a little more hesitant. But the reported one, I think that's almost a no-brainer. Am I right, Bryce?
Yeah, I mean, Boyan you're essentially getting number 10 pick for Boyan. I think that's pretty good value. I think like on the second one, maybe even with both to an extent, I would have it in place, and then I would tell the Mavs it's based on what's there at 10. Because I think it becomes more of a no-brainer if Taylor Hendricks is there or Anthony Black. Or even, like, here's my thing. If Asar Thompson is there at 10, are you kidding me? I walk away from this draft with Cam Whitmore and Asar Thompson, like, forget about it. I'm pretty freaking juiced about that draft. The other thing is, who do they think they can go sign as a vet kind of 3-4 as well? Because I do think I've been sold more and more on they need some vets, right? Like they need some guys. And I know THJ is coming back, but still I'd want somebody there.
Yeah, I mean, you brought it up before, Bryce, but I would be happy with bringing away 2 young guys from this draft any more than it starts to feel like this team is just there's still so much guys first, second, or third year on the roster. And obviously we presume there'll be internal growth, but it's just the more roster spots with 20, 21, 22-year-olds or younger, it's just hard to see them really taking a leap. That's why I'm so interested in this draft and offseason, because it's such like this turning point for especially Troy Weaver. Like, this is like I feel like this is the most pressure he's been under in an offseason to sort of turn things around. Like, we can't have I can't imagine the franchise and definitely the fans won't accept another 20. Like, I think they need 28 wins or more to satisfy.
I think they need to have at least 25 and be exciting and competitive while they do it. Last year, it was like, I'm watching Jaden and Jaylen, and that's about it. 2 years ago, it was even fun, even though they weren't winning a lot of games. So I think they can get away with not winning 30 plus as long as it's competitive and they're exciting and there's some fun to it. But no, I'm with you, Jack. I said he has 3 huge decisions, and I guess one didn't really end up being his, but a new coach, a top 5 pick, and a bunch of cap space that he at least can't screw up. And, even if he just pushes it down the road, I'm okay with it, but you can't do something stupid with it. One of those decisions may or may not got taken out of his hands, but looks like a good decision. The other 2 are to be determined over the next month. Not even a month. We got like 2 weeks, and both of those decisions are essentially going to be made.
It's right around the corner.
Yes.
It's insane.
I wanted to pull this up from front of the show, Kyle. I think it's interesting. My answer is no, but I was curious to see what you guys would say.
My gut says no, but I mean, it's a good enough question that I'm continuing to think about it while I'm trying to talk about other things. That's essentially 3 lottery picks. Now think about that. We talk all the time of so-and-so got traded for 4 first-round picks, knowing that there's a chance none of those first-round picks actually end up in the lottery. We're talking about pick number 5, an established rookie who just made second team and probably had a really good argument for first team. Pick 5 and pick 10. That's a lot. My thing is always, how can you build this roster out around it? Like, this is my thing. I didn't know if we were going to get into the Zion Williamson thing tonight, but it was like, how do you build out the roster? Do you still have the assets to build out the roster around Cade and Zion if you traded away Jaden and whatever for him? So that's what I'm trying to think here. Like, I guess you still have you have all your cap space.
Still have
your future picks.
Presumably. You've only traded away Boyan as the vet. You don't have pick 31, but So you have Cade, Scoot, Duran, and essentially everybody else on the roster.
And then free agency.
My-
I mean, it's almost essentially taking what you had last year and swapping Ivy for Scoot.
That's what I was going to say. It's essentially just swapping Ivy for Scoot, but you're not adding anything else to that now. I think I'm going to say no, but I think that's because how I feel about who you could get at 5, whether it's Cam or a Min, and who I think legitimately might be there at 10. Which
I think I'm a no as well because of pretty much what Bryce said, but like you already have a backcourt. Like you've got your backcourt right now. Scoot coming into the draft is a better prospect than Jaylen and Ivy. Like Jaylen Ivy,
Agreed.
like definitely. Like I don't think that's a question. Now Jaylen and Ivy showed some major strides as a rookie. Now Scoot probably very well could be better than Jaylen, but you already have those two plus Jaylen Duran. Plus you still have 2 bites at the apple in the top 10 to get your wing. I just have concerns if you just were to go Cade, Scoot, as good as those two would be, just how like investing, like having just a backcourt like that in the playoffs. Like they'll be great players, but I feel like you've already got your backcourt right now and you can go out and bolster the wings and your forwards or centers. So I would say no, even though it's a great question from Kyle.
I think it comes down to how much better do you think Scoot is than Jayden Ivey? Like that's really what it comes down to. Is he so much better than Jayden Ivey that you're willing to trade away Boyan, 5, and like you're willing to get rid of all of those assets to upgrade? And if you see that big of a gap, then, and I think Scoot's really good. I don't know that I see that big of a gap. You know what I just realized? If they end up with 5 and 10, they could end up with a Min and a Sar.
Keep them together.
Keep them
That's
together.
why, there you go. That's why he skipped out on the Pacers.
Yeah.
He wants to fall to 10 to Detroit.
People have talked about this, though. They've never not played together. And I am sold. I am sold that the opening night of Summer League, Jack, you're going to be there, right? On the 7th?
I am.
We finally get to meet in person in just a few weeks. I'm sold that the opening game at Summer League on that Friday night is going to be whoever drafts a Min versus whoever drafts a Sar. I think that's going to be the first game of Summer League. And then the nightcap, I assume, will be, Victor versus Scoot.
For sure. Well, we sort of mentioned it here, but Sean Corp, managing editor at Detroit Bad Boys, said, Asar seems to have gotten the promise ahead of the Pacers. Who did it?
No, I refuse to answer any questions from Sean. No, Sean is the boss. He's the man. I would never be anywhere without Sean and the opportunity he's given me. So what? The Pacers are at 7?
7.
Yep.
I mean, there's not a lot of options here. Rockets, Pistons, or Magic?
I do want to throw this out because
he doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to go to Indiana.
Or if none of the top 6 are really all that open and showing their interest to him and to his camp, what if he thinks he's a great fit with the Wizards? They're going to reset Tradeway Beal, and the Wizards have told him hey, you're the next superstar, come to town. And then he thinks it's such a great fit that he's like, nah, I don't want to work out for you. I don't want to get drafted by you Pacers. Move on down. I mean, I don't think it's a absolute foregone conclusion that it's a top 6 promise for him to skip out on the Pacers.
I love that.
Can I say as well, I don't think he has a promise with the Pistons, just a guess, but the Pacers have their backcourt. They've got Benedict Mathurin and Tyrese Halliburton. Could it simply be he just doesn't want to go there because of fit? And if he went, I don't know.
No, I was just going to say, the only thing with that is he had it, but we don't know when it was scheduled. Looks weird because the tweets that reported it were 30 minutes apart. Whenever I saw him, the dude tweeted it out saying, Asar has a workout for the Pacers tomorrow. And then he quote tweeted himself 30 minutes later saying Asar has canceled his workout with the Pacers tomorrow. So it's just weird. But they also said he did meet with the Pacers I don't know. He's interviewed with the Pacers somewhere also. I like yours, Wes. I think I think Asar to the Wizards is really interesting.
To the Wiz.
Well, I think the wild card could be the Rockets too. I mean,
Sure.
ever since the Rockets fell to 4, we've been hearing that they're rumored to think the Twins are more or less equal. Although, I mean, now it sounds like it's kind of turning, but early on that was the rumor. So, I mean, I guess maybe the Rockets like him more than his brother. I have no idea.
I mean, there's some people that do, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I assume front offices do because I've seen, plenty of draft media that does. I'm not saying that's a 1-to-1, but we talk about this all the time. There's all sorts of opinions all over the place. I mean, is it crazy to think that the Rockets are one of the teams that just thinks he's the better twin? He either has the higher floor or, higher ceiling somehow or whatever. I mean, I kind of tweeted out today. I think I could make a realistic argument. I'm not saying I believe it by any means that Asar ends up being the better player. I mean, I think I can make that argument. Again, I don't believe it. I actually have a decent gap between the two, but it's not crazy to think that somebody falls in love with him. Some people think he's a point guard. Like some people think he's just played in a men's shadow and he can be an on-ball creator. I don't.
Bryce, because
I
that was one of the things with
I'd love
Asar.
to be proven wrong.
I just didn't see a lot in the half court from Asar, as a creator.
I don't believe in it. I don't subscribe to it. That's why I don't believe his ceiling is higher than his brother's.
Yeah.
But if you combine that, if you find somebody that does believe in that and it's true, combined with his other stuff, better defensively probably right now, higher upside as a shooter, those things, more time playing off the ball, like you could work yourself to this is a better fit.
A comp I actually liked that Sam Vecini threw out on one of his podcasts was like a supercharged Gary Payton II.
So Sam, Sam likes to use, like, I think, was it Matt Babcock that told us like Scottie Pippen or something like that? I think Matt's the one that used
that on the pod.
I think we're talking the same archetype of player with all of the Andre Iguodala, like those type of players.
Connecting
defensive wings who in today's NBA are used even more creatively because coaches have realized I can use this guy as a pick and roll man because especially Asar, so athletic, I can truly throw him a lob pass. And if they want to trap my point guard, now I have Asar playing 4-on-3 in the short roll and he can attack the rim or make the read, type of thing. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's all kind of in the same mold.
For sure. All right, moving on here to coffee. How do you interpret whatever Weaver said regarding Gores and the coach selection? I found that extremely confusing. I'll just be honest, I sort of missed that part of the interview, so I'll turn it over to you guys.
Wes, maybe you can. I saw a little bit of people saying they were questioning what he said, like he was frustrated or upset. Or I saw a lot of Troy Weaver hate coming out of that press conference, to be honest with you. People just straight up saying he was boring or something like that. God's honest truth, I didn't watch it. I wasn't overly interested in it at all. I figured anything that was important, Omari would let me know. So did they charge people to watch it too? Didn't you have to pay $20?
There was a YouTube.
No, they streamed it on YouTube.
Oh, okay. All right. But anyway, so Wes, maybe you have a little better insight.
I mean, I watched it. The only thing I can think of that maybe Coffee's referring to is I don't know if there was actually disconnect between Weaver and Gores, but because Troy Weaver is not the let's say best public speaker, it kind of came across as though they had a big major disagreement somewhere late in the process, and then they ended up coming together after some sort of powwow and moved forward with Monty Williams. But like to take that and then say that Weaver didn't want Monty Williams when like as soon as Williams got fired, Monty said that Weaver had like reached out the next day. Like I have no idea what was going on with it, but I know that Troy Weaver, the way that he speaks, it did not help him in presenting that. I'll just say so. I think that's probably where a lot of the concern came from. Yeah, KDA, lots of ums. He seems like he's a very nervous speaker, and then he's also very particular Like he's
Yeah.
really thinking through everything that he's going to say. So he pauses at like really random intervals. But yeah.
I feel like it became I just feel like Gores believed they could get Monty whenever Weaver didn't anymore and was kind of ready to move on.
Well,
And
that's what it felt like to me.
I'll just repeat something that Amari has said multiple times. Tom Gores is in the business of not taking chances on things, right? Like he's in sure things and he doesn't want to be a risk taker. I don't understand Tom Gores' business. So I guess if that's not true, then at Amari Sankofa on Twitter, go call him out if that's incorrect. But
Amari.
but like that's Amari brings up this point a lot with this hire in terms of more sure things, less gambles. And so it made sense that Gores would lock in on Monty Williams and be willing to even overpay, if you want to think so, in making sure that Monty Williams was the guy.
Yeah, what Ryan said here feels like what it is. So I'll leave it at that.
And ultimately, they made an offer to Monty Williams, which is like prior to that offer was inconceivable to pay a coach that much. So, yeah. I didn't, just reading from what I saw online about sort of people were using the word awkwardness. I didn't concern me at all.
Oh yeah, he's a GM. We don't want him to be a good public speaker, right?
Here's the thing, guys. Like, I mean, this is what we do. Talk in front of a camera, as crazy as that sounds, that's not what Troy Weaver does. Like, that's not his job. And so I've talked to a lot of people. I shouldn't say like a lot. I've talked to plenty of people who work in the NBA world who are kind of awkward to talk to. And if you put them on camera, I couldn't imagine how they would respond. I work with some people who they are extremely smart in terms of scouting and analytics and stuff like that, but they're not exactly guys you want to put on the phone call with the actual player or a team to sell the player to the team and stuff like that. So doesn't mean he's not smart, doesn't mean he's not a good scout, doesn't mean, behind the scenes he doesn't have good relationships. Maybe he's just uncomfortable in front of a camera, So it's just it's not his job to do that. Even Dwayne Cate, right? Like that's part of your job as a head coach, right? You do how many media? Couple hundred between games, practices, everything else. A GM does. How often do we hear Troy Weaver talk?
3 to 5 times a year.
I'd say 5 times
3 times a year, maybe.
Yeah. So, it's just he's not going to be good at it, probably.
No.
All right, moving on here.
Sign the free agents. You're good, Troy. We don't care.
Even if a man would be willing to play it, this is from Rishi. Even if a man would be willing to play the 3 and could do it well, it's better for him as a player if he can be a starting point guard somewhere. Wouldn't a man be disappointed to be drafted by Detroit?
Yeah, I just want to say, I've talked to people who are close or in this world, and the intel is insane on these kids. This is one thing, Jack, that's kept me hooked on Amin and Asar is everybody I talk to says that these kids are incredible workers, great kids, unselfish, on down the line. My interpretation, my understanding is that Amin is the type of kid that if he got drafted by Detroit and they said, play this role, he would do it without complaint. Now, again, that's a short-term thing. Would he be willing to do it for 15 years of his NBA career? Maybe not. And I agree with you, Rishi. It may not be what's best for him in the trajectory of his career, but that's what I've heard about these kids is that they're just amazing kids.
Wes?
I can't really add anything. I don't have any of the intel. I think it's totally possible that he'd be really good at the role. And then at the same time, too, you definitely want to be getting him point guard minutes somehow, somewhere, right? So, I could see it long term, maybe not being ideal, but if he'd be disappointed, I would have no idea. I'll lean on you.
We've talked about this though, guys. Like the intel, there's so much intel that we don't know, and everything I hear is like fifth hand from this person to this, like by the time it gets to me, who knows if it's actually true or not anyway, it's not like I'm some insider. So, but there's so much intel that goes into this, Jack, that, you know, really determines whether these guys would be happy, accept their roles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, look, I'll just trust what you're saying, Bryce. You've got the intel. You're our insider, so
yeah,
that counts.
Watch a man gets drafted and immediately demands a trade.
Pulls an Eli Manning.
Tenzo313. Do you think that Bojan will be with the Pistons by the beginning of the season? Do you see a possible trade involving him?
I think he's on the team.
Ooh, I like it.
Want him to be on the team. that
wasn't the question, Wes. Stop dodging the question, Wes.
Oh man. All right, I'll just say the fact that he was the only guy not at. It was him and Corey Joseph are the only guys that weren't at the Monty press conference.
I was gonna look this up,
but like everyone else was there. You know, like it just makes me a little nervous because that happened either shortly after or a little before the whole Mavericks at 10 rumor. And like, now I'm just connecting wild dots as a fan. I don't know. I'm not as confident as I was a week ago. That's all I'll say. I'm not as confident that he'll be there. I still want him to. I like Bojan a lot.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think he's definitely when you look at the roster of the, I guess, players in the top 8 to 9 of the rotation, I would say he's the most likely to be traded. I think that's fair to say. I'd like to see him on the roster though. Yeah.
I think
he's way more tradable than Bagley.
Oh yeah.
He's more tradable, but like you could dump Bagley if they just don't want him.
Yeah, but Bojan's contract's really tradable too, right? Like
the
$2 million guaranteed. Mm-hmm. I feel like every trade that gets reported a week before the draft is a trade that doesn't gonna actually happen on draft night. You know, like It's just to me, it's like, hey, if I'm Dallas, I'm going to put out this trade that Detroit's willing to offer 31 in Bojan, so the Hawks will offer me 15 in John Collins because that's a better deal than what Detroit offered me. I just feel like Detroit.
No, that's legit.
It's every agent in the NBA is going to use Detroit in the same. No, actually, who's going to get used this summer is the San Antonio Spurs, because the San Antonio Spurs make the most sense. Oh, you don't want to pay my guy? Fine. He'll go sign for bukus of money to play with Victor Wembanyama, the best prospect in the last 20 years. And you know what every team's going to have to do? They're going to have to take it. I wish I could cuss. Seriously, that he may actually do it. So San Antonio Spurs fans, if you're watching this, I don't know why you would be ready for every free agent to be linked to your team this summer.
So that's what you said earlier with the fact that we heard it probably means it's not going to happen. That was actually something that Stan Van Gundy would say all the time back in the day. You probably remember, Jack. But he basically, paraphrasing, if you, the fans, hear a trade rumor, it means it was talked about, it's dead. Like, unless it's Woj or Shams reporting that it's about to happen, like, not happening anymore. So the fact that we heard about it probably means it's over, or it's a rumor, like you said. But, you got to bring up Stan.
So you just compared me to Stan Van Gundy. I don't know if that's a compliment, critique.
It's a compliment. I love Stan Van Gundy.
I like Stan
Wes rolled his eyes, so I don't think it was a compliment.
I really like Stan, but I don't know if we're going to get into that. He's the only coach that I used to watch every post-game interview. I'd go on the Bally Sports YouTube and watch all his post-game interviews. I don't know. I loved his insight, and he's really emotional. I liked him.
Mm-hmm. And his voice was always dead after games.
Yeah.
It's the most raspy voice you ever heard, just like almost yelling at the beat
reporters. I used to love hearing him yell
out
Andre. He'd just yell at Andre the whole game on defense. Like, Andre!
You could hear him on the broadcast.
Yeah. All right. That's enough Stan Van Gundy. that might annoy people in the comments. Next one from Dominic. Rank in order of importance to you when evaluating for pick 5 and pick 31. Fit, talent on tape, projected talent traits, and any other major components, red flags, intangibles.
So I'll just say my draft philosophy as it stands right now, and I guess I haven't found any reason to change it. Maybe eventually I will, is I go best player available based on tier. Here's what I'm going to take in my tier, and then if I have 2 players in the same tier or multiple players in the same tier, then I go to fit. So my example right now is I actually have Amin Thompson over Cam Whitmore on my big board. Amin at 4, Cam Whitmore at 5. But they're in the same tier. That's why I love whoever came up with this idea of tiers instead of just rankings 1 through 30. And I do think Cam is a better fit for Amin. And so I would say just overall talent. And I think that plays into what you're asking, Dominique, in terms of the film, projection, red flags, and tangibles. I know we don't get all of that stuff, and then I do factor in fit. And again, I know I always, talk about Sam Vecini, but that's because I listen to his podcast pretty religiously. He talked about fit kind of does play into best player available, because can that player reach his best player available ceiling with the roster that you have? And that's what we talked about with Amin Thompson, throughout this. So.
Yeah. You want to go, Jack? Or you want me to give it a go?
You go, Wes.
All right. It's not a super interesting answer because Bryce, you've influenced me quite a bit. So I try to take a very similar approach. I really struggle at the margins on the tiers, but generally I like to do the same. And then I'm fairly risk adverse just in general. But I'm looking at, I think that the context of when the GM is making the pick matters quite a bit. So, like, flashback 3 years ago, Troy Weaver could probably have taken as many swings as he wanted. That's not really what he did. But, like, he probably could have taken 3 total upside swings, and they all could have just flopped and been out of the league by now, and it wouldn't have mattered, right? He could have taken 3 James Wisemans. No one would care right now because he was just starting off, right? And he's kind of incentivized to do it, to really take the upside. But now, I mean, he's in year 3. There's already some discontent in the fan base. I know it seems like there's a lot of front office support, and they just hired a coach for potentially 8 years. But at the same time, like, if he's looking at a guy who could be James Wiseman in 3 years, like, he might get fired, like, if that's an outcome, and if it's a likely outcome, he could be gone by the time, James Wiseman's actually a half good basketball player. So I think that the context around when the GM's making the pick makes a lot of influence for me personally.
Yeah, I think you guys have summarized it perfectly. I don't even need to add my philosophy.
You're getting into it, though. I like it, Jack. You're starting to get more into the NBA draft stuff. That's right. That's good.
I think for me, the thing I've looked at is a lot of what Wes said, taking in consideration where the team is at in its rebuild times, where Troy Weaver is at in his position with Detroit, and sort of the repercussions of another developmental season with just young guys going out there making mistakes. Like, I don't think that bodes well for him. So hence why I've sort of come around more on guys like Whitmore, Walker, and Hendricks. Walker and Hendricks in particular, I think they really can. I'm not saying they're going to be plus defenders as rookies, but I think there's a chance they hold their own as defenders as rookies. So that's why I've gone more towards a bit more fit with this class. But yeah, a lot of it has to do with where the team is right now. And as well, I think Jaylen and Ivy and Cade Cunningham are probably, I think their ceiling, you could maybe throw Jalen Duran in there, but those two, I think their ceiling's probably higher, I want to say, than any of the guys Detroit can get at 5, unless someone drops.
That's fair.
That's a really good point. And Wes, I've talked to you about this a ton. I've tried to reconcile, okay, if I think that's a top 3 backcourt in the NBA in 5 years, then I'm much more willing to draft for fit and a high floor guy, because all I need to do is start putting pieces around this really, really, really good backcourt. So why swing for the fences with a Min or a Sar whenever I think those guys have a chance of flaming out? If I only have if I only had Jayden Ivy and Jalen Duran, no Cade Cunningham, the rest of the roster is the same. Somehow I have Jayden Ivy, Jalen. I'm taking Amin Thompson. It's not just because I need a point guard necessarily. It's because I'm drafting for a high upside player. I need to raise the potential ceiling of my team. I would be going after Amin no matter what. I don't think it'd even be a discussion for me.
Yeah, sure. That's what I mean. Yeah, I said it before. That's why this draft's just so interesting The
It's
fact
fun.
that Detroit fell to
Yeah.
pick 5, like we
Yeah.
spoke about it in the pre-lottery show, like just the selfishly like the content potential from falling to pick 5. Like it is given us. There's so many ways next Thursday can
I wish
go.
I didn't say it though. Now
Nobody's
I
talking
jinxed it.
about Victor right now, guys. Who's talking about the Spurs and Victor? Nobody, because it's a done deal. It doesn't matter. We have 6 guys, and some people want to talk about Grady Dick. So you got 7 guys if you really want to get into it that we're talking about. We're talking about trade backs, like all of this stuff. It's been really good for content creation. I will say that.
It's a fun discussion, that's for sure. All right, next question. Oh, did you have something to say, Wes? My bad.
No, I was just fixing the earbuds.
Gotcha. Okay. Would Scoot have went 2 or 3 in last year's draft? And if so, in front of who?
I think Scoot would have went 1 last year. Why?
The only thing holding me back, I still love Chet. So like, I got to buy Chet. The biggest eye roll I've ever gotten from Bryce. There it is.
No comment. No, why would the Magic not have drafted Scoot? Like they need a point guard? No. I think he would have been in play.
They love Cole Anthony.
Not enough to not draft Scoot, right?
It's hard because
I loved Paulo. Wes, right? I love Paulo.
You do.
He was number 1 on my board by the end. But I see no world where he wasn't. That would have been a lot of fun. Like as crazy as that was, you had Scoot into the mix also. Yeah, I think he would have been in play at 1, in my opinion. I think so.
So the question is 2 or 3. I think definitely he probably could have gone 2 or 3 in last year's draft.
So I mean, 2 was Oklahoma.
Yeah, 2 was almost a lock.
2 was Oklahoma City. Like they could, maybe they don't want to go there.
Yeah,
because they have
Houston
Giddey
definitely
and
taking him at 3 as well.
Agreed.
100%.
Houston,
100%.
Sure.
Yeah. And then Jabari falls to 4. And then the Pistons.
I feel like OKC would have still. I mean, they've been playing Giddey at like 3-4. You know, I mean, I don't think they would have even blinked.
That's true.
I bet they
That's
would have
true.
done it.
Yeah. But then now Keegan Murray drops to 5 and the Pistons draft Keegan Murray instead of Jaylen Ivy.
Don't go there.
Right. Can you imagine?
Me and Wes had a lot of Keegan Murray, Jaylen Ivy conversations last year. That's why I said.
I can't even remember. Were you guys?
He was Keegan.
Ivy.
He was.
Yeah.
That does not surprise me that Wes was.
He was Keegan Murray.
Low risk.
He was good. He had
turned out to be real good.
He had a very good rookie season. He was very good. He shot better off movement than what I thought. Everywhere else, I think he was the player I thought.
Yeah.
Everywhere else, I thought he was the player I thought he was. He was a better shooter than what I thought, especially like movement, screens, those type of things. He was really good. You had a really good rookie season. I would still 10 times out of 10 take Jaylen Ivy for where the Pistons were at.
So yeah, you were Jaylen at 5.
Yeah.
Last year.
And this is from a Benedict Mathurin super fan, and I still would give I still gave Jaylen Ivy as my answer by a very slim margin.
All right, another question from Sean here.
Nope.
Why am I seeing Pistons fans? Why am I seeing Pistons fans interested in trading for Bradley Beal or Kristaps Porzingis? Is it because people hate me?
People love you, Sean.
It might be.
It might be.
So I don't think I haven't seen as much Beal as I've seen. I've seen some people really talk about KP. Yeah, I think especially if he opts out.
Can I just say on the Porzingis, I think theoretically I see it.
Sure.
Like I sort of see it offensively. Okay.
Yeah.
Defensively, I guess you could make it work with him and Durant. Sort of, I don't know, one roaming. But this guy, because I was going to tweet something, but I was like, I just don't want to be a hater here. But he's played 62% of games in his career. He's missed one whole season with an ACL injury. He's played less than 50 games 3 times, which only one of those seasons was a COVID-shortened season, which still had 70-plus games within them. So that is what scares the hell out of me with Kristaps Porzingis, because we saw last season injuries. Like, this Pistons team in the first 3 months of the season just could not put a roster on the floor. Like, injuries, just not having that continuity really hurts the team, especially with a new coach coming in. Like, yeah, that's why I'm out on Kristaps. I get it. He's a really good player. He showed a lot on defense with the Wizards, but I'm just, for the price and risk, I don't see it personally.
I just recorded with Matt Moderno the other day, who does the Believe in Wizards podcast, and he complained over and over and over about Kristaps and Daniel Gafford playing together and how it just absolutely was a nightmare defensively because they're both drop coverage bigs, and that's all they do. The only way this works defensively is if you think Jalen Duren has some more, like, he's almost your 4-man defensively, where he has a little more versatility, and maybe you believe in that. And if so, like, yeah, maybe. But I think offensively it could be fun. I'm a little more with like Wes, where with free agency and stuff, I'm just terrified right now to give out a big contract or to bet on somebody who has an injury history. And that's Kristaps, that's Bradley Beal, that's Zion Williamson, even though the contract's not quite as bad with him. I mean, the Porzingis contract is going to be insane. If he opts out, he's going to get paid. And so I don't even know. Kyle, maybe you can chime in here. Like, if you're still watching, I don't think they would even have the cap space to do it without making other moves. I think they would have to definitely decline Burks. Maybe that gets them started, but I think that only gets them to like 40. I don't know. I'm just not ready for something like that yet. That's just me.
The only thing I'd add, because I'm on the exact same page with you guys with Porzingis, is every time he's been injured, he's come back like slightly less athletic. Like, he is not the athlete. His rookie year, he could switch a little bit, right? And as the time's gone on, it's been a lot of lower body injuries. He just does not have the hips or the quickness anymore. Like, he's a 5 who can get pushed around quite a bit. So I'm out too.
We all know that there's only one Washington Wizard that speaks straight to Wes's heart, and it's not Bradley Beal or Kristaps Porzingis. It's Denny Avdia.
How did I forget that? That's bad by me.
Come on.
No, I see the vision with Denny. I don't mind that.
Next question.
Charles says, how would you define this restoration team's culture and which prospects fit it best?
So I'm still trying to figure that out a little bit. I'll tell you what I text Wes today. I think they're going to take Jarace Walker. Like, I was listening to a podcast. I think it was No Ceilings maybe. And they're talking about Jarace Walker. And I was like, holy shit, this sounds like a Troy Weaver guy, because hard worker, tough, hard-nosed, great kid, selfless, chose Houston over all of these other schools to play at, where he knew he was going to have to play defense, and he knew he was going to get coached hard, and he knew he was going to have to sacrifice. And by no means, guys, am I saying those are negative things. Those are all extremely positive things. I just, like, it hit me like, this sounds like exactly what Troy Weaver always feeds us in press conferences of draft the person, not the player. And so I'm kind of setting myself that Jarace Walker is going to be the pick at 5.
No, I agree. I think with the team culture, I'm trying to figure that out too. I'd probably throw Anthony Black in there. He seems fairly similar, but it doesn't seem like he's got much steam at 5 as much as I like Anthony Black. So I'd also lean Jarace Walker.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying, I feel like without even knowing intel on Jarace the person, you just look at him as a player and what he brings, his physical profile. Like, I've always thought that's just someone Troy Weaver would love to take at 5 or wherever the Pistons were drafting. In terms of the culture, yeah, that's something I'm still trying to figure out as well. I don't think I really have.
When you win 17 games.
Yeah.
To have a culture.
He talks about defense and rebounding, but I mean, and maybe he hasn't been able to. We never know the players he's tried to acquire or tried to,
True.
But I mean, Marvin Bagley and James Wiseman, he did acquire, and they don't exactly represent that even as big men, So it's, I don't know.
I mean, physically, he goes after tall guys with length or tall guards with length. Like every point guard's been, I think Jaylen and Ivy is 6'4", but Cade, Killian is 6'5" or 6'6". Like, so there's been a priority there on like height and size and sort of, I guess rebounding. And obviously he's been clowned for some of his trades and that to do with big men in their early beginnings. But in terms of actual culture, I don't think I have an answer. Next question here from Malzino 7. Have you guys heard anything about individual workouts? There was some stuff in Spaces this week about Hendricks, but less clarity around Cam, Jarris, etc.
I honestly haven't kept. I didn't even know Hendricks worked out for him. The first one I saw today was Cam Whitmore. I'll be honest, I don't stay up with this stuff a whole lot, so I am not going to be any help on this one.
Yeah, I didn't even know that Cam or Hendricks even worked out. I mean, in the past, the Pistons have been really open about who gets brought in for their individual workouts. I think they'd even let the press team like interview them afterwards. But ever since Weaver came in, it's been pretty locked up. So I have no idea, no insight. I missed the Hendricks thing.
Yeah, I only know the Thompson's twins worked out there last week. That's all.
There you go.
But I believe Cam and stuff have worked out with the team now. But does seem like everything's pretty kept close to the chest. All right, Sean again. Who is projected to get drafted in the mid to high 20s that you're hoping falls to 31? I'll turn this over to Bryce.
So the name that immediately jumps out to me as I look through my list, Bryce Sensabaugh would be really interesting at 31. Omax Prosper is a guy that I love that I think could truly be there at 31. I like Julian Phillips. He's really like in play at 31. Dariq Whitehead is another one. But like, I've kind of fallen in love with the idea of GG Jackson. And it's like, that's your ultimate upside swing, but you get to do it with a pick in the second round. And so, man, if they walked out of this draft with Cam Whitmore and GG Jackson, I would crack open a couple Twisted Teas after our live stream was over and sleep really, really well, and then wake up super early to record the Pulse the next morning. But I like some names there, man. I like that pick 31. I'm excited for that pick too.
Yeah, I don't have any other names to add. Juju, I mean, I guess maybe Leonard Miller's still getting like lottery buzz, but it seems like it's still kind of all over the place. I mean, like if you're asking for a miracle, that would be something awesome.
Leonard would be cool,
but that's all I got.
So GG Jackson just seems like the ultimate could just go anywhere in the first round. Or is that?
No, you're right.
Because I would love GG. I just thought he might be going top 20.
I would rather the Pistons package 31 and not Boyan, but like Bagley to go to. This probably wouldn't work because a team wouldn't have the salary cap space. I would rather them find a way to take 31 and get up to 23 or something like that because a GG fell. Dorothy Lynch is dope, Sean. I don't know what you're talking about. I put it in a Yeti to be respectful of Detroit Bad Boys, Sean, just so you know. I lost my train of thought. I do this more as I get older. But no, I'd like to trade up and
Bagley in 31.
Yeah, no, just to trade up and go get the guy you want. Dariq Whitehead. Leonard Miller would be really cool, Wes. Because I think Leonard Miller is like
20s.
Yeah, is like more of an undersized big with skill than an oversized wing who's all of a sudden not that skilled for a wing. You play him as like a full, like in Detroit where they want, like he would be a really good 4-man, I think, or even small ball 5. The shot came around a little bit. It's a little wonky, super flat, but in that range, that's a really good selection. I think that would be cool.
I mean, what if Troy Weaver really falls in love with Derek Lively?
Stop.
How far up would he move?
Stop.
Pick 5. It's happening.
Stop.
He might shake Jaylen Duran to get back into the top 10 and take Lively. You never know. Then you'll have Wiseman, Lively.
Hey, the stream's gonna pop off if that happens. Like we're gonna have people tuned in if.
All right,
we'll be doing it right now, guys. A week from now, we're gonna be talking about that number 5 selection. How cool is that?
I can't wait, man. Last year was so much fun, and I just think this year is going to be even better. We got a great panel again. It's going to be a ton of fun. Rishi says, is Ant Black at 5 really a big reach? Spins calling him a b-ball genius. If you're into IQ processing, isn't it weird to mention Jarris but leave Anthony Black out? Wes, I'm going to turn this to you because you're our Anthony Black guru.
Yeah, I think it's weird to mention Jarris as a big IQ prospect and not mention Anthony Black in the same breath, if not as a more advanced processor even, because I mean it doesn't, just as reading the floor, I don't think it gets all that much better than what he does. And he doesn't have both ends of the court too, which is doubly impressive. But if he's a reach at 5, I mean, I said earlier, I really like him. I'd consider him at 5. It doesn't seem like he's getting a lot of buzz at 5. Feels like it's probably reach. I think I'm even seeing just in the mock drafts that I've been watching, even less buzz of him at 6, because for a while, the Magic kept getting linked to Anthony Black for a little bit. So it seems like he's kind of settling in that 7, 8, 9, 10 range. I mean, that's not a massive reach at 5, but I just don't think it's likely.
The only reason I say it's a reach is because I just think Cam Whitmore, like I just would take Cam Whitmore over him. But like the idea of drafting Anthony Black at 5 isn't crazy to me at all. I think somebody could make the argument, if you don't believe in Amin Thompson and Cam Whitmore goes 4, that then Anthony Black is very much in play at 5, if you don't believe in the Twins at all or Amin or, so no, I don't think it's a huge reach. I have him in that same tier. All 6 of those guys are essentially in the same tier for me. I've kind of divided them out a little bit, but a lot of it just has to do with where I've gotten with Cam Whitmore as a prospect and what I think he can be for this Pistons team.
Yeah, I think
real quick, sorry, I was just gonna say real quick before you go, the when you mentioned Amin Thompson, that's like for a while been kind of I guess my switch up. Like they're very, very similar players. You're getting probably about 90% of the athleticism, a little bit more of a jump shot, and the trade-off on potential, however else you want to look at it. So I think it's fairly equivalent. Sorry to cut you off, Jack.
No, you're good. All I would say is just with the question, comparing Jarris to Black is, I think definitely Black, the IQ and processing is like more advanced than Jarris. I think the thing with Walker is the defensive potential. Like I just think there's more, you get more on the defensive end from a big wing forward than probably a guard. And I think Black's a good defender, don't get me wrong, but that's probably why I have him further ahead of Black. I think that's probably a fair thing to say about for most people.
Yes, and yet Sean brings up a good point. If Amin falls to 5 and you don't want him, somebody does, and you're going to be able to trade back to then draft Anthony Black at 8 because Washington traded up to 5 to draft him. So it's a good point.
All right, last couple of questions here, guys. John Buck. Could Walker be as good as Triple J from Memphis, Jaren Jackson Jr.?
The idea of Walker's a little different, right? Am I mistaken there that the idea of Jarris is a little bit more perimeter defender? It's a little more Aaron Gordon-y defensive type player, Draymond Green type defensive player. And that's not quite it. Like, I don't think Jarris Walker rim protector I think of him as versatile defender. Am I off here? Maybe I'm
No,
not
I'm with you.
envisioning what Jaren Jackson
I
Jr.
don't think
is.
so.
I don't see
Okay.
that. Jaren Jackson Jr. is like the best rim protector in the league, and I don't really. Yeah, definitely more of an. I mean, Wes is. We've spoken about it privately, like the Aaron Gordon comp. I really like that one.
I do as well.
Gordon's probably a bit more athletic, but just that sort
Agreed.
of archetype of player, I think that's more what you're looking at.
I agree. And someone just said in the comments, Taylor Hendricks is more of your Jaren Jackson Jr. type player, and I think I would agree with that as well.
Yeah, that's a good shout from Ryan.
Good Ryan.
Offensively too. I mean, Jaren Jackson's almost exclusively dunker spot, roll man, and spot up shooter.
Which is
And
Taylor.
I mean, yeah, it's Taylor, but and like maybe that's what Walker ends up being. Definitely an outcome for him, but that's like your worst case almost. You're hoping that he's able to do, some ball handling, some passing, a little bit more creation, ideally, right? If he's going to hit a ceiling that he might have. So, yeah, I think like you guys said, Hendricks is Triple J. Hopefully.
Where's Hendricks, Bryce? Because I did put it in the article. I just wanted to get maybe your top 5 big boards for Detroit, just as of today.
Yeah, because I'm sure it's changed since the last time I tweeted it out. So I would have Cam, then Amin at 8:30 Central Time on Thursday night. Taylor Hendricks has now jumped Jarris Walker. I'm slowly souring on Jarris Walker because I don't think he's this wingy forward. I think he's more of a 4-5 than he is a 4-3. That doesn't mean it can't work. You could put the right guys next to him and it could still work. So I think I would go Cam, Amin, Hendricks, Jarris, Anthony Black. I'm kind of out on Asar right now. I don't. The more I watch the film, the less I like Asar.
Got it. So sorry, just to recap, one was Cam. No, Amin.
Cam.
Amin, Hendricks,
Walker, Black.
Okay. I like that. I think mine's pretty similar.
Like I said, if you just gave me just a big board, Amin is higher on my just personal big board. But they're all in the same tier, so then I can do it for the Pistons, and I do think Cam makes a more sense than Amin.
For sure. All right. We've got one more question here from the live chat, and then we'll do one from the DBB comments. So Kevin says, is there a reason why the Pistons would not take Cam if he's available? A man is not a fit for what this team needs. I smell Anthony Bennett vibes with Walker.
I just want to make it clear. He said that about Jarris Walker. I just said that I was souring on him. I didn't compare him to Anthony Bennett.
So what's the case against Cam Whitmore?
He has not great feel. Here's my biggest worry about Cam, guys, is that the bad feel actually makes him a really bad team defender. I think you can survive even if the feel isn't good offensively because you have Cade and Ivy and Jalen Duren. And if he can just knock down shots, attack closeouts, finish at the rim at a high level, guys, he's so much more than athletic than Sadiq Bey. It's not even funny. I think he's a really good shooter. Like, he can pass. It's not like he can't pass at all. But I'm more worried about the feel on the defensive end. I'm also a little worried about his screen navigation because he is so bulky. So that would be my sell of or my worry with Cam. And then Amin, it's hey, here you have a very twitchy, high-level defender, all the case I made earlier in the episode, essentially. So I also want to say real quick, Cam Whitmore is an insane athlete, top 3% athlete in the NBA day one. He would be the best athlete in the lottery if it wasn't for the Thompson twins. I don't think he gets his due credit for that. Just wanted to say that real quick. His first step is Jaden Ivey and Cam Whitmore first steps on the same team would be a lot of fun. Cade Cunningham creates, opportunities. Those guys take advantage. Sorry, I'll shut up now.
No, he's got that similar first step at 235 too. It's insane. He's insane. Jack, go ahead. I think I cut you off.
No, you're good. I was just going to was going to get to two more questions, one from DBB comments and one from Twitter. So the one from DBB comments from 3-on-3 Pistons, can Asar Thompson become a respectable shooter?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, I don't want to doubt the kid. I don't know that I necessarily believe it, but again, there's really good intel around him. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely possible. Yes.
Can I just reframe this question just a touch? So
Sure.
Do you think in his first 3 seasons, Asar Thompson shoots over 36% from 3?
No.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
The best compliment people give him is that he's a better shooter than Amin, and Amin sucks at shooting. That's not a compliment or something to give me confidence in his shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm
and
with
like,
you.
listen, I'm a big believer, right? Like anyone could be a good shooter.
Yes.
100%. If you put enough of the reps in, like anyone could be a good shooter. It's really hard. Like it's not easy. It's really hard. So I doubt him a little bit.
There's a huge mental side of this. Okay, like I'll just
It's massive.
Guys, I made 47 of 53s at age 35 whenever I don't even go to the gym. I was like 37% 3-point shooter in college 15 years ago in my quote unquote prime, because there was a mental side of it. There's an athletic side of it. There's just so much more than just standing at the 3-point line and knocking down shots. So, I mean, there's so much other fact. Maybe he does have the confidence. That would be huge. But even if he figures out the form, what if the confidence never gets there? So there's so many variables that just we don't even know.
Yeah. I mean, look at Killian, right?
Yeah.
You want to look at like shooting confidence issues. You got one right in your own backyard, Pistons fans. It's not all about the reps.
And the thing with Killian is he would pull up to any gym and probably hit 47 out of 50.
That's always my
every
point.
NBA guy.
NBA guy.
Exactly. Like that's why I posted some of that stuff initially, was like, stop worrying what the shooting numbers are in open gyms, because some Joe Schmo like me who's nothing can go do it. And if I can do it, then you know what NBA guys are doing.
No, exactly. I think it's great insight. The last question I wanted to get to from Twitter was John Strong. How would you rate Duran's defense last year? How would you rate it compared to your expectations? And what is his defensive ceiling?
I thought
Wes,
it was a
do you want
little
to
rough.
go first?
I'll go first, even though Bryce was about to start. All right. I think he was like an all right rookie defender last year. Like, I don't think he was great. I don't think he was awful. And this is like for a rookie big man. It's really tough to be a good rookie big man defender, despite what Walker Kessler did. And in terms of like what my expectations were, I think he was better than what I was expecting. I was not expecting a lot. I might have been one of the only ones on that. I was a little lower on him on that side of the ball coming in. So he really exceeded that. And for his defensive ceiling, it's all what he can do as a weak side rim protector, right? I mean, if Jalen Duren could theoretically become a guy that you could funnel the other team's offense into at the rim, I mean that would absolutely change the game with how the guards are going to defend, how you're going to defend pick and roll. I think he could be that kind of guy. He's got a long way to go. So I'll just say that it's not like an easy do this, do that, and then he's one of the best center defenders in the league. But like if he could get there, that'd be huge.
Yeah, I know we're gonna get my guy Harry sent me one on Twitter. I know we're gonna get to as well. So Harry, I got you. I'm with Wes. I think he's got a long ways to go. He was the youngest player in the NBA. Rookies struggle on defense in general, but as a big man, there's a lot more pressure on you to be a good defender. You can't just be neutral. If you're a neutral defender, that's actually probably a negative. So I mean, he does need to get there. But yeah, I'm really interested to see. And again, new assistant coach. Be interesting to see what the scheme is. I'm excited. It could be really good.
Yeah, I'll also add is that he's definitely got the tools to be a great defender. I think considering how young he is, there's still plenty for him to learn in years 2 and 3 and maybe even 4, like before we get like a real good feel for how good Jalen Duren will be as a defender in his prime. I mean, for me personally, that his defense is something I'm going to be paying a ton of attention to in year 2, because I think last year, like, he exceeded everyone's expectations just in terms of the minutes he played, the production he put out. So, but I do think there's a lot there to work on defensively. So, yeah. Okay, it looks like we've had a late question come in here, guys. It's actually come in via text message, which is a different medium. So, Wes, I think you've got a question for us.
Yeah, I've got one. So this was a trade proposal, kind of surrounding Damian Lillard, Kyle Lowry, and the potential of a 3-team deal. So I'm going to try to lay it out here as clear as possible, and then you guys just go on it. All right. So Miami would get Dame. Portland would get Tyler Hero, Killian Hayes, Marvin Bagley, and 2 Miami first-round picks. The Pistons would get Kyle Lowry and a future pick from Miami as well.
So essentially for the Pistons, you're losing Hayes and Bagley. You're bringing in Kyle Lowry and maybe some sort of future first-round pick.
And you're not losing.
You said Kyle Lowry's expiring, right?
So here's the context is veteran point guard leadership that Monty likes. This is why Harry brought this up, and bringing in Lowry to kind of play. I think you tweeted out, Wes, the Ricky Rubio role from that first year team with the Suns. Lowry is on an expiring, what I tell you, Wes,
Is it 30?
It is like, it's not quite 30, but it's almost 30.
Just under.
But you're also sending out 12 of Bagley, and Killian's probably 7 or 8 at this point, something. So you're not taking on that much this year. You'd still have a little bit of cap space, and he's on an expiring. Yeah. We've talked about Javon Carter on this stream.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is the same type of idea, and a first pick,
and a better player.
So just to confirm, the Pistons are only giving up Marvin Bagley and Killian Hayes and getting back Kyle Lowry and a future first.
Yeah. So
yes. Effectively, this is Miami salary dumping Kyle Lowry, but Portland doesn't want him. So the Pistons step in and say, okay, like, we'll facilitate it.
Why?
So it's pretty much a free Kyle Lowry and a pick.
Why on earth would you not say yes to that? Like, I would do that in a heartbeat.
You have an argument for it. Yeah.
No shade to the 2 guys leaving the team, but
I think the argument against it is you're essentially getting a 1-year rental, and that's it.
But what are you getting in the future from Bagley and Killian?
No, agreed. It's like, I think if you still believe in Killian or Bagley at all, then you wouldn't do it. Mm-hmm. But if you're essentially done with those guys, you know, perfect. You get Kyle Lowry on an expiring for a year. You get, I think Harry even says in here, a lower first-round pick. You know, maybe it's even a second. Miami gets Dame. Portland builds around Hero and some Miami firsts.
I love it.
All right, Kyle just asked. Miami gets Dame, Kyle. Portland gets Tyler Hero, Killian Hayes, Bagley, a couple first-round picks. Detroit gets Kyle Lowry, and let's just say a second-round pick or late first, something like that. But, I mean, I think we know when we put these together, the picks are probably going to even things out, and maybe some other players.
Mm-hmm.
I really like it.
Yeah, I can't think of an argument against it, but this is also I'm
would you do it if it wasn't the first round pick though? Would you do it solely to get rid of Killian, Bagley, and have Kyle Lowry as a veteran presence for 1 year?
I think I would. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I think Kyle Lowry would be fantastic value to get off of Killian Hayes and Marvin Bagley.
I agree, Kyle. I think Portland's the one that doesn't do it still. I don't think Portland gets near the value.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll be honest. My brain couldn't even compute what was happening and outside of what the Pistons were getting.
They'd probably need Scoot to fall to 3, right? Because then they're more willing to get off Dame. You're building around Scoot, Simons, Tyler Hero, and 2 picks.
there's just a lot of redundancy there. It probably depends on what they
Yeah.
felt like they could. If they could move Hero for a first, now you could essentially feel like you're getting 3 first-round picks for Damian Lillard. But that's why I think that Miami's not also giving a first-round pick to Detroit in this trade.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. I don't know Miami's pick situation in general. I think Harry just wanted to facilitate a trade that got Kyle Lowry to Detroit in some way. So credit to him for putting it together in some way.
Shout
Yeah,
out to
that's
Harry.
interesting. That's interesting that you guys would just say, "Hey, 1 year of Kyle Lowry is worth just moving on from Hayes and Bagley." That's interesting. Cool.
Yeah, I think like Killian, I think the ship, like I think his time with Detroit is sort of just up.
Sure. I want to see
personally.
him with the new coach.
I want to see. Okay, I want to see him with a new team. Oh no, sorry, that sounded bad.
No. I know what you
saying
mean.
that for Killian, I think like
Yes.
for him as a player, not
No,
me
agreed.
saying get him off the team. But
I was saying, no, I think everybody felt that way. Like, I even think Killian Hayes, like, supporters felt that way. I feel like a new coach gives him a little bit of that now to see.
that's true.
And I also just want to see it because I'm like, okay, Dwayne Casey pretty much got blamed for all of Killian Hayes' shortcomings. And maybe I'll learn a lesson in this. Maybe I will be proven 100% wrong that it was all Dwayne Casey's fault. I would like to see. I just want to see.
I'm with you.
I mean, Jack, you and I have mentioned it with Hayes. I'm actually a little worried about him in Monty Williams' system because for like as high feel of a player as he was coming into the draft, he's not really played like it.
Sure.
And then you stick him in a system where like he needs to make those snap decisions repeatedly as the guy initiating everything, like even more pressure, even if it's with the bench. Like it could be a real big sink or swim. Like I just worry it could go really bad. It could be good though.
We'll find out. We'll find out. Is it Killian Hayes? Is there a more divisive topic?
How about Vince Ellis tweets the other day about the number 5 pick, and then he told me he told everybody. He says it became Killian slander conversation in the comments.
It's insane. 90%, like 2/3 of things come back to Killian Hayes. It's insane. Like
Killian, Isaiah Stewart. Isaiah Stewart's another one right now. I feel like the fan base is divisive on and upset about and arguing. Like Sean Corp's favorite Detroit Piston, Isaiah Stewart.
I thought Sean's is Killian. Remember that piece he wrote last season?
Ooh, I remember that. I got an email about that. I got an email about Sean's article on DBB about an unhappy fan of that article. So, no, I'm glad I showed up when I showed up, Sean.
I was
a reader. I was there for it. It was bad.
Yeah. I don't think I used to comment much, but I used to get pretty angry reading the comments. Were you a Drummond guy, Wes? Or what was? I've never actually asked you.
I mean, I wasn't an anti-Drummond guy. So like early on, all the potential in the world, right? And then he gets the big contract. He more or less met it early on, and then just kind of plateaued for him. So I was like, on him, but I thought he was overpaid for sure.
Yeah.
But like I wasn't dying to get rid of him, I guess.
Sean, toxic discourse doesn't even begin to describe it. Oh man. All right, that's enough.
There was a DBB writer too that like every other article he wrote was just anti-Andre Drummond. Not going to drop names, and he was largely right too. But
these initials SH?
Maybe.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's enough Andre Drummond talk. I think that does it, guys. As we sort of mentioned briefly earlier, we are hosting a live draft show next week. There'll be more details coming out with what time it starts and all that as we get closer. But all 3 of us will be on the panel. We've got Sean Corp joining us, Brady Fredrickson, and a few other people. So it's going to be a really fun night. And so make sure you join. like, subscribe to the DBB YouTube channel. And big thanks to Bryce for joining us. One of the best draft guys out there and best Pistons voices. And thanks to Wes, as usual. This has been one of my favorite streams, to be honest. We've had a ton of fun. We've gone for an hour and 40.
Yeah,
so,
I'm sleeping on the couch. I may be divorced tomorrow morning, guys. So I might have to start a GoFundMe for a rental property or something. So
no, it's been a ton of fun. A ton of fun. Bryce has had the twisted tees out, and now he's on the couch. But yeah, like, subscribe. Thanks for everyone in the comments. So many questions. Couldn't even get to them all. And special thanks to Sean. He's the man who makes this happen. And shout out to everyone once again for the questions, talking points, and just the support in general. Join us next Thursday for the live draft show. Can't wait to see you all then.